Good evening and welcome to just another G.I. Joe show, episode number 13. I'm your host, Mike, and I am joined today with a couple of special guests and Fred, of course. Can't do anything without Fred around here. Fred, tell people where they can find you at, man.
Well, in spite of this awful T-shirt that I'm stuck wearing, you can find me at joebattlelines.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Google+. I don't know, probably somewhere there's an old GeoCities floating around. So
I'm a fan of the Tiger Force shirt. I like
it's all because I lost a bet where at JoeCon, Mike was set up outside of the dealer's room, and the whole deal was if he could get Brian Savage to appear on the show, I would wear a Tiger Force shirt for 5 weeks. Oh, wow. Savage made a cameo. Okay. So this is my second Tiger Force. I've got 3 more that I'm working on, so this will be kind of fun.
His cameo was to come on and basically tell Fred, "Yep, you lost."
Yeah.
That's all he said. He
really?
Like, literally, that was all he really said. Was like,
"That's so
yep,
perfect.
You just lost that."
That's Savage. That's Savage for you.
That's so Savage of Savage.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 special guests on here tonight. If you notice, there's other people besides Mike and I. So guys, give us an introduction. Tell folks a little bit about yourselves.
Cool. We'll let Greg start.
I'm Greg. I'm the owner of 3D Joe's. My apprentice Carson is with. I'm the guy that formulated the whole 3D Joe's project, and I also single-handedly pack all of your Kickstarter orders.
Okay, so
Carson is just a freeloader.
So the last part is true. The last part is almost true. Greg, in all actuality, like he packs the hell out of the Kickstarters, man. He lives over here basically for like 4 days, and we put on terrible movies like Star Wars episodes 1 through 3.
Grow beards,
and
it's bad.
Eat a lot of unhealthy food, and pack a lot of orders. So Greg is the master packer. I'm Carson with 3D Joe's, and hopefully you guys have seen the site by now. Everybody that's watching.
You've been wearing the right hat.
Yeah, I got my this is my company. I started a company like 2 years ago, so I got to rep that too.
Terrible.
Yeah, sorry.
Where's the other one? I'll go
my branding is horrible.
And so, okay, let's assume we have a completely uninformed audience. Someone who goes, "What's a G.I. Joe?" Can you tell us a little bit about 3D Joe's?
Sure.
I became aware of it back in 2012 when it first started to pop up, and you were doing the uploads of 82, I think. You started with 82.
Yep.
And so tell us a little bit about 3D Joe's, including, like, how did you come up with the idea for this?
Honestly, I remember Joe Battle Lines promoting 3D Joe's early on, and I remember taking screen captures of it because I was so excited that people were actually talking about it.
Seriously. Someone read the side.
No, really, man, because I did a Kickstarter. This was back in 2012. There was a JoeCon in New Orleans, and I went down. That was my very first JoeCon ever. I had befriended a guy local up here that was going to JoeCon every year, and he finally taught me into going. So we went down for New Orleans, and I took my carded figure collection down there, and like my Missile Command headquarters and my Dreadnought ground assault and air assault and all this stuff just to like share it and just talk with people and whatever. And so I had this feeling coming back from there. We called it the O-ring gauntlet because when we were driving down, every time we'd hit a bump, I would like worry about my O-ring snapping and my carded AFA figures like losing 75% of their value. And so, just driving down there to do that, to try to like share and show off and stuff, was like a real wake up call of, hey, this isn't the best way to share this. Right. And, so I had done a Kickstarter for this software called ArcSpin, and that's the 360 spin software. And I was one of the first early adopters of that technology. If you go to arcspin.com and look at their customer spotlights, like 3D Joe's was actually their very first like customer testimonial. So it was just like really unique new software, and I thought it was a very interesting way to show toys off. I mean, 360 degrees, what's better than that? It's the closest thing to holding it in your hand. You can sit there and turn around and see how like all the mold lines resolve as it goes around the figure. So I just thought it was a worthwhile thing to do, a good way to show them off. And also, I just have a graphic design background, so I went to school at the NC State College of Design, and so I'm very particular about, layout, and you guys have gotten to know me by now. You know how obsessed I am about restoring images and just getting everything as pristine as possible. No glares, no blurring, just very anal retentive. And there's something very like very rewarding about taking a scan of a box and then turning it into something that's as close to factory fresh as you can get it. And that stuff, like I tell people to this day, that's my yoga, right? Like if somebody has a bad day and they have to go to yoga, if I have a bad day, I have to go into Photoshop and just spend a couple hours working on something. So yeah, 3D Joe's just turned into this kind of ritual for me. When I started out, you know, it was every Sunday I would spend 6 or 8 hours and just plow through the figures. And so every week there was an update. Now the updates are more kind of behind the scenes and they come in waves because that's just kind of the way that I'm working, but I'm constantly working on it. And it's definitely not just me. Like there's Greg, you know, with the Kickstarters helping out with fulfillment. There's Chad Huckle up in Victoria, British Columbia, who is constantly working on Photoshop stuff in the background. Brian Sauer from Codename Iowa has helped me out a lot. I think especially on Volume 2, Brian did almost all the vehicles, I believe. So there's been people that have like, you know, it's a team, man. There's definitely been people helping me out. There's been people shipping me stuff to document. Terry Dizzard shipped me the USS Flag that was peeled off of the original box and the Defiant that was peeled off the original box.
Wow.
Like those posters would not have happened if Terry didn't reach out and say, hey man, do you want to restore this? And I was like, hell yeah. Somebody peeled that off the box in 1987 and stuck it in a tube and saved it for later. And 30,
it's like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who thought to do that back in the day? And then so 30 years later, it ends up with me because they know I'll take good care of it. You know what I mean? So that's like, that's an honor, dude. Like people that believe in what I'm doing and want to help me out with it really keep me going and keep me going.
And I have to say, you know, when you started releasing the Collecting the Art of G.I. Joe books, which if anyone's not familiar with these, just get over to 3D Joe's, go into the store, go look at them now. Just don't waste time watching the rest of the episode. Pause it, go do that.
Yeah.
The G.I. Joe line back in the 80s, one of the things that was so, I mean, there's so many things awesome about it, but one of the things was the original painted artwork that adorned every package and every card. And when you started to release those books, the only thing that made me mad about the project is at that point in time, I couldn't justify just plunking down on the hardcover right away. Yeah. Because, which is why I'm glad you did the soft cover versions, because you took the time to get clean copies of these original painted works and really breathe life back into them again. You know, I've got the To the Rescue poster and the Stars and Stripes, you know, those are hanging up at home. And I still, like, there's something inspiring about those images. You can look at that and find something new every time you look at it.
And every one of those pieces has a story behind it. Like, so for Stars and Stripes and To the Rescue, it really hadn't been well documented before we did that. Obviously, like Yo Joe was here way before me, and they've documented way more stuff than I will ever document, and 3D Joe's will never be a replacement for that, and I say that to everybody. But if you look at the photos that they have on there, it's like, yeah, okay, they're at an angle, there's some light glare, you know what I mean? It's just a little different, right? So I was searching for pristine copies of those, and I think 3 or 4 JoeCons ago, Paige and Greg Wagner are good friends of mine. They've helped out and submitted stuff to the site many times, and they knew I was on the hunt. And we had a booth that year, and there was a guy right next to me, Justin Talton, and he had a pristine, still in the tube set of those 2 posters. Had never been opened. But he wanted like $300 for it, you know, and I can't blame him. Like, that was a decent price for a still mint and sealed tube kind of thing. But $300 is a lot. So Paige and I agreed to go in halves on it, right? And so I could bring it home, open it, scan it, restore it, eventually offer it in the book, right? And then I shipped them up to Paige. So it's kind of, I tell a lot of people that I have a catch and release program in a lot of ways, because I need to get these things in my hands and I need to document them, but I can't afford to own everything. Like, the value of this stuff is it's just up there. You know, there's some things that I'll always have to own. Like, I still have every single figure 82 to 94, and I always will. But there's other stuff, like, I just have to learn to let go. So like with Stars and Stripes and To the Rescue, man, I don't think a lot of people had seen Stars and Stripes. A lot of people had seen To the Rescue because it was on a lunchbox and it was used in the marketing material for the 83 catalog. But that Stars and Stripes illustration, that's by Ron Rudat. And that flag is like one of the most beautiful flag renderings of any toy line ever, right? Yeah. So, yeah, every piece that we've worked on has a different story to it.
So can you take, okay, so for a piece like that, because, you know, most people when they're dealing with the scanner, they're dealing with an 8.5 by 11. And so, okay, you take us through like the process of, especially a piece like that where it's a poster? I mean, are you doing it in segments and then merging it? Are you using a large scale commercial scanner? Like, and then once you've got it scanned, then what?
Yeah, so it's been an evolving process. Like when I started with 3D Joe's, I didn't have a nice scanner, but I was working at Duke University and they had very nice scanners in their library. So I literally was taking G.I. Joe stuff into Duke University and scanning it like overnight. I would go in there for a 6-hour shift, 8-hour shift, and the Stars and Stripes and To the Rescue, I remember scanning at the Duke Library. So eventually, if there's ever profit on the Kickstarters, I reinvest that in 3D Joe's, right? If it's paying for storage for all the posters, I have a U-Haul unit full of them, or if it's buying a scanner. So there's a Epson Graphic Arts 11,000, like 11000GA. So that's what I use right now. It's an 11x17 graphic art scanner. It's in the living room. And yeah, so I eventually just had to pony up like $2,600 and buy myself a nice scanner, so I didn't have to drive 30 minutes to Durham every time I wanted to scan something. So yeah, it's 11x17. So if you think about something like the USS Flag, right? I had to scan that in 9 pieces. And then you do a process called stitching in Photoshop where you're merging it all into one big image, but you have to be like very careful about selecting where you make the seams, so that it's in a place that won't be noticeable at all, right? Like, so I guess if trying to explain it, say if there's 9 images right here, like 3 across and then 3 down, then you would have like little diagonals running through where things are stitched together. You don't just want to have like 9 different squares, right?
Sure.
So yeah, you end up stitching it together. I think I spent 8 hours scanning and stitching the flag, and then I did 2 like long overnight 8-hour shifts and doing their image restoration on that, taking out all the creases, the tears, wrinkles. And so I made a YouTube video on the 3rd leg of this like 3-leg race. I did a time-lapse recording of my photo, like my desktop, showing the work in Photoshop. And you can hear at like the beginning of the shift, I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go. And then at the end of it, like, okay, we made it.
Yeah. You start off and you're like, woohoo! And at the end, it's like, all right, I'm almost done with this.
It's an interesting video if you have several hours to kill. You can watch that or Lord of the Rings or something.
Or The Hobbit.
But it's time lapse, so you can see like in real fast forward motion the restoration process. So I think it's interesting. If anybody out there wants to see kind of how the work gets done, that's getting done, then I would definitely recommend that video, and maybe you guys could share a link to it.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're talking on the art restoration side now, and I do want to get back to the 3D Joe's, that just the figure side as well. But what has been your most challenging bit of restoration work so far, and what's the one that you were really surprised to get a hold of? There's got to be something where you're just like, holy cow, I can work on this. So
we try not to just do the figures and the vehicles and the play sets. We also do, magazine covers, poster inserts, any catalogs and offers that were inserted into the vehicles and play sets. We do all the peripheral products. So if it's a trash can or a puzzle or a soap set, like a little bathroom set, we document all that stuff. And to my knowledge, everything from 1982 to 1989, we've covered every piece of unique painted art. So it's like a mad dash, like last minute effort to make sure that you have everything. And just before we printed volume 4, this one product came out very last minute. I don't even think that it has like an official name to it. I'll pull the book out and show it to you. I don't think this kid like has an official name or anything, but there's basically these peripheral pieces. One's a tool set and the other's a fishing kit. Yeah, one's a battle ready tool kit and the other one is a fishing kit. And so we nicknamed the guy at the bottom. We call him Bobber. So
Bobber.
Yeah. But this piece at the top, this little guy right here, that came up like through one of the Facebook groups, literally like about 2 weeks before I was going to print. And I had never seen that before. And I think it was just like one of those rare peripheral items that kind of comes up last minute. And so I worked with a guy through Facebook to get some decent photos of it and touched those up and added it to the volume. So to me, like trying to be a completist with this and finding those little crazy off the wall little side things, that's the most fun. Because everybody's seen the vehicles and play sets, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's the most fun. Now, like what item to me has been the biggest honor to kind of get my hands on? I would say it's those Kodak Ektachromes. I've got one of the, it's up here, but it's like too bright to see it. But basically that little, let me see, maybe the camera will adjust for it. So this is basically, I don't know, you think that's like 6x9? Maybe?
Something like that.
Somewhere about like 6x9.
4x9.
But let's see if the camera will adjust for it.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that right there is the original Kodak Ektachrome that they used for the 1986 catalog, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's a large format transparency on a material called Kodak Ektachrome. And this is how the illustrator, who was Hector Garrido for this one, would have transferred that artwork to Hasbro. So instead of mailing a gigantic painting, he would make a large format chrome of it and send that.
That's crazy.
That's like by far my favorite piece, man. I freaking love that piece. You know,
I still don't know what Roadblock is doing in there when he's like swinging at the snake.
I know.
It's like, well, we got to get him in there somewhere, but I agree.
There could be some weird connotations around that. You could have an ethical debate, maybe. I mean, yeah, nobody else is swinging in by a vine, so
it's like Roadblock. What the hell are you doing, buddy?
So then I was able to take that. This is going to be upside down, but Fred, you've probably seen that already.
Oh, yes, I have.
So, I mean, being able to take that large format Ektachrome and then make something like that, that's a dream come true for me.
I feel like this is like a cooking show where we have products ready. We're just like, we get this, and this is the final.
Yeah.
And we stir the pixels, and then you pull up the finish. Yeah.
Ready to eat.
I mean, that thing, when I was growing up, I started collecting Joes in '86, so that was like my little Bible. That catalog sat in my back pocket. It was like leathery by the time I was done with it, you know? So to be able to like actually have an original now, that's crazy.
Well, and I gotta say again, this is really a shout out to anyone that was involved on that brand. But you know, you got to give Kirk Bazigian major props. He and the whole team, the twisted geniuses that they were at manipulating our minds as kids. You know, you open up I opened up the Vamp. You know, I remember this. It was my first vehicle. I tear open the Vamp. I get it out. And this little booklet falls out. Well, that's not the instructions. I'll look at that later. Put my stickers on. And then I'm like, oh. And there's artwork and the pictures. And it was the beginning of indoctrination. And like you were saying, I saved every one of those catalogs.
Yep.
And, you know, when I go to 3D Joe's and I saw, was it a few months ago, the magazines, G.I. Joe magazine. I remember when the first issue came out. And then there wasn't another one for like it seemed like 1,000 years.
Yep.
And you know, so I hadn't even seen some of those later issues until you put them up on the site.
Yeah, and evidently the later ones, I don't know if subscriptions went down or whatever, but I guess the '88 ones are harder to find. I mean, it took me about 2 years to get all of them.
I can believe it.
Yeah, so Kirk calls it diabolical marketing, right? Like he knew, like, it's mad science. He was diabolical. He was scientific about the way that he would separate kids from their money. You know, if it was those catalogs, they all had little checklist boxes on them, right? So so then you felt like, well, hell, if I don't have a check in every box, I'm somehow incomplete. You know.
And the way I even like it, and again, because of the posters, because of the art books, I've been really looking back at this. So a vehicle comes out, but it's not just, especially once you get to about 84, 85, it's not just the vehicle driver pictured on it. Oh no, it's the Ostriker. And here's Gung Ho, who was still available at retail. But then here's Dusty. Like the way they cross-pollinated characters across there was brilliant. Or even, I think the first one that I really remember it with was the 82 headquarters. Mm-hmm. Every single character shown in one, that was out at the time in one scene, and suddenly it was like...
Sold separately, though.
All sold separately.
Well, you know, again, that's why, you know...
That one term still hanging around, so, you know...
Yep.
That's why I mowed a lot of yards as a kid to earn money to run to the local variety store to snag more of those. So
and then they told you to create your own G.I. Joe mobile strike force. You know, like you had to build your own little army. We did so Kurt has like a 5-slide PowerPoint deck that he does that just talks about the different marketing elements on the packaging. And I mean, every line in here has purpose. You know, every single one of them accomplishes something. So it was yeah, he's a brilliant marketer, man. We were lucky to have him. And when you read those catalogs and those magazines and those newsletters, you can hear Kirk's voice coming through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he was definitely the voice of the brand and just brilliant at what he was doing.
So, okay, we've talked about the artwork and the restoration side. And again, if anybody is watching this who hasn't done it already, go and get the art books. I cannot stress this enough. One thing, you're supporting 3D Joe's, and so you're keeping the software going till the figures keep spinning. And you're also able to bring home cleaned up versions of a lot of these pieces of art that inspired you as a kid. Talk to us a little bit more about the process of putting a figure into 3D Joe's in the spinning fashion, because I know there's more to it than just, you know, filming a video and making a GIF. Talk to us a little bit more about what goes into that, and what have you learned in the process of doing it? You know, how did the later ones improve over the originals? Yeah,
it's interesting. If you look at the early documentation on 3D Joe's, I'm not at all content with it anymore. And I think you'll probably see once I get done with the vehicles through 1994 that I'll start doubling back and redoing some of the stuff that I've done, especially earlier on. So, you know, honestly, the ArcSpin software is extremely intuitive to use. It's very easy. You can shoot it with a DSLR camera if you want to, but you don't have to. You can use an iPod or an iPhone or an Android or whatever. And basically it is video. It shoots a couple rotations of it, and then it basically looks at that video and interpolates it down into about 60 or 70 JPEG images. And then it wraps those JPEGs up in what's called an iframe file. And all those iframe files are uploaded to the ArcSpin server, right? And then I go to ArcSpin's page. I can do some additional editing there. You know, change white balance, paint some things out with a black marker, a white marker, an eraser, or whatever you want to call it. So you can do some post-production on their website. You can also do post-production on the iPhone or the iPod or whatever, but I tend to do my editing on their website. And then once you're done, you just take that HTML embed code, drop it in on your website, and it pings their server for that, and it pops up. I mean, it's really that easy. The issue with ArcSpin is that, you know, they've got to make a living, right? So that's why, I mean, I made posters in the first place. Was the ArcSpin software is $80 a month for the pro subscription. And I think the pro subscription, they basically count it like you count cell phone minutes, right? They count the number of times that somebody pings a page that pings their server to pull that 360 spin. And so they had like a couple different plans at the beginning, and it became like immediately apparent I had to have the pro plan. Like enough people were coming and looking at spins that I had to have the pro plan. So it's going to be $80 a month. That was after about a year of doing that and just kind of, you know, just paying out of pocket like $960 or whatever. I had finished through the 1989 figures. And I was like, you know what? No one's ever made a poster to document all the figures. So I'm going to do two of them. Like the first one does 82 through 89, and the second one does 90 through 94, because they made so many more figures in 92, 93 than they did the rest of the line. We can talk about that later. That's a big can of worms. But so, I mean, I did the first poster. I put it on my credit card. It cost me $3,000. And it took like 3 or 4 months to break even on it. But then after that, it's all profit, right? Like the inventory was all profit. So, you know, I had an idea. Maybe people want to buy these posters. The idea was proven true, right? And so once you have an idea that's a good idea that people are biting onto, then you just double down on it. Keep thinking of other ideas. What else can you do? And so I did the second poster with the 90s stuff, and then really, you know, just got into the package art, started doing the carded figures, started doing the vehicles, and you guys know where it's gone from there. But I mean, essentially it was to try to figure out how to pay for the ArcSpin stuff.
Sure.
Because my website hosting and all that's not too expensive. You know, the website hosting's not too bad, but the ArcSpin stuff was a significant expense.
Okay. What, out of curiosity, what has been the most popular? I mean, I know you get the stats from them, you know, showing. Yeah. What's been the most popular of the spins so far? Is there one that has leapt ahead of all the others?
Right.
Or
you know, I don't think I've gone into ArcSpin and searched by most popular spin. I do go into my web analytics tool and like maybe monthly look and see what the most popular page of that month is, because it's kind of interesting to see it evolve over time.
Oh yeah.
But so I could definitely tell you like what are the most popular pages on the website, but I don't think I could tell you what the most popular spin is.
I was just curious if you were like one day you're going through your analytics and you're like, wow, people really like Windmill. You know, like who knew?
No, it's a pretty brilliant question that I honestly haven't looked into, so I'm looking at it right now.
Because I've done that even just with some of the stuff over at JBL. It's like, when Gung Ho came out, everybody was looking up content about Gung Ho all of a sudden. So
cool. Yeah. So I'm logged into ArcSpin now, and I'm sorting all the spins by views. But I think this will be interesting. I have uploaded 2,057 spins in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So that shows you like the sheer volume of documentation that's been done. There's over 2,000 of those 360 spins.
2.8 million all time.
2.8, yeah, to 2,837,656 pings off of their server to look at different spins over the last 5 years. Over the last year with 3D Joes, vintage 3D Joes, and 3D Super Joes, we've served 2.5 million page views to something like 110, 120,000 people. So, I mean, it's getting out there, man. It's awesome just to you want to do something and you hope people like it. And I mean, like I was saying, when I first started rolling the website out, I didn't know if it was going to catch on, if anybody was going to care. So like, Joe Battleline's giving me coverage, and Generals Joe's giving me coverage. That stuff was like, that was a huge win right out of the gate. It just kind of reaffirmed that people would actually enjoy it.
Well, and again, nobody at that point had ever really done anything in a high quality fashion of presenting the figures this way and then archiving the artwork in the same fashion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love Yo Joe for what they've done. They're an exhaustive resource, and 3D Joes would not be here without them having laid the groundwork for archiving everything. I wanted to focus on a much smaller window, right? Just the stuff that I grew up with that I loved, and I wanted to do it in a more detailed not more detailed because they get into the molds and like what was used when and all that kind of stuff. And I don't get into that stuff, right? But I wanted to focus on purely the sculpture, like the molds of it, and the artwork, and the marketing and that kind of stuff, the storytelling.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a place for both. To answer your question about most popular spin though, real quick, it's the one that's on the homepage at the very bottom. It's the Sideshow Collectibles Zartan and Flint statue, and I shot 2 different spins of it. And so this is one of those where I shot it with a DSLR camera. I took it into Adobe After Effects and like lined the 2 spins up, and then I do a cross dissolve between it. So Zartan he turns back and forth from camouflage to fleshy tone.
That's okay. That explains.
It's a pretty cool spin.
Now, you actually set up my next question in that last answer, so I appreciate that. So you also mentioned that for those of you who don't know, 3D Joe's has 2. I would refer them as sister sites.
Yeah.
Which is vintage 3D Joe's and 3D Super Joe's. How did those come about?
Yeah. So, do you remember the Flag Points podcast?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. I was a big fan. I wish they were still making episodes. It was just like, hanging out with some friends in their attic or whatever, their toy dungeon, and just talking. And I really liked how they reminisced about like the store experience, the shopping experience, the very like, they like to recreate or kind of relive old memories and stuff. So that was fun. So Dave from Flag Points had me on early on, and it just turned out that he worked with a guy, Matt McKeeby, who had an exhaustive 1964 to 1976 collection. And so he was planting the seed in Matt's ear about, man, have you seen what Carson's doing with 3D Joe's, like 82 to 94? It's amazing. You need to do that. You need to do that. And so I think, he sold Matt McKeeby on it. And so then basically he just set up a couple calls. We just got on 3-way calls, and I ended up creating like his initial logo, brand, and a few templated pages, and getting online with him and showing him how to replicate those pages and how to get moving on the stuff. And he took it from there. He's done everything. I mean, that's his baby. I don't touch vintage 3D Joe's at all. Like that's his thing. And he's done an amazing job with it, man. He connected with the daughter of the director of the old TV commercials. Like that would have never happened.
I remember that.
Yeah. Had he not created that website, that got enough traffic that Google search engines started pulling it up high enough that daughter found his site. She was searching for info on 12-inch Joes, and she found vintage 3D Joe's and was like, you seem to be the right person for these film reels. And so she ended up giving him a box of film reels. And these are like the original commercials in the most pristine form that you're ever going to find them. And so then he did a Kickstarter, raised like $1,800 for the digitization of those, and put them out there on the internet, you know. And it's basically like, it's a snowball effect. If you put some passion into something and you do your best with it, then hopefully somebody will find that, somebody will see that, and they'll get equally excited about it, and they'll want to help you, right? And so she found what he had done, and she decided that she wanted to help him, you know, by sharing this precious media that nobody else had. It's pretty humbling.
And then how did was it similar with Super Joe's as well, which had a much smaller run of only 2 years?
It did. It's an interesting toy line that, you know, I honestly didn't know anything about it. I was born in 1979, right? So it died when I was born.
You killed it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting. That was definitely, you know, another friend of Dave's. They had been traveling in the same circles, and so, you know, a similar operation where I created the initial branding for it, and you know, set up a few templated pages, and, you know, just kind of let them run with it. I mean, none of us have any ads on any of these websites. None of us really care about making money off of any of this stuff. You know, all of us just want to preserve something that is special to us. And for whatever reason, you know, Steve loves Super Joe. And I think he was able to kind of easily corner that little piece of the history, right? So I don't think he's done yet. I think he's still searching for a couple items, but he's almost done. And if you look at vintage 3D Joe's, I believe he's covered every single figure, playset, you know, accessory pack, and that kind of thing. So I'm really the laggard here.
You can finish?
I've still got 1990 to 1994 to knock out in the vehicle archive.
Oh, man. And that's no small feat right there.
Well, I mean, the good news is I've already collected them. Because 90 through 94 they're affordable enough for me to where I don't have to beg, borrow, and steal those. So, yeah, all I got to find is the time to knock it out. I mean, the last book was 1988-89, and, you know, Chad Huckle put over 200 hours in. I get him to tally his hours just because I want to be number one, I want to know, right, how long it's taking. But number two, if we have any profit on the Kickstarter, I want to try to share and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I know he put over 200 hours in, and I put about 200, 250 in when you include like the iBook and all that other stuff. So, I mean, when you think about that, 400, 450 hours for two guys, that's 10 weeks worth of full-time work, you know, doing nothing else. And that's not what we're able to do, right? Like, we have to fit this in nights and weekends. So, I mean, it's just a crazy amount of time. And then when you set that 450 hours aside, and you think about having to document all those 1988, 1989 vehicles, we did all of that in sync with Volume 4, right? So it's a crazy amount of work, and the books are taking a little bit longer than 6 months for each book because we also have to build the archive as we go. Because if we don't finish the archive as we go along with the books, you know, I worry that it would never happen.
Yeah. Right? Oh, definitely.
Right. So, and then the other thing is, you know, the iBooks, if you get on iTunes, the iBooks, as you flip through them, they have these little blue stars on each page. If there's a painting, there's a blue star, and you can click on that and go to the page on 3D Joe's and see the spins and blueprints and file cards and all that other stuff. So it's just a challenge to myself to keep the archive up at the same pace that the books are going.
So now, okay, so we've heard about how 3D Joe's came about and how vintage 3D Joe's and then Super Joe's. So if somebody came to you and said, "Hey man, I got a box of Sgt Savage stuff," this could happen, right? Because I know, especially if you ever talk to Kirk, all you have to do is mention Sgt Savage, and he perks up even more.
He does love some Sgt Savage, man. That was his baby.
Would Savage 3D Joe's be the Sgt Savage or the club stuff?
Well, okay, 3D Sgt Savage would be the toy line.
Brian Savage.
Savage 3D Savage Joe's would be the Brian Savage action figure in his Jordans.
Yeah.
There you go.
In his shorts.
Little bullhorn. We could do a spin of his bullhorn.
Yeah,
it would be amazing.
I mean, honestly, I'm happy to, and I'd be cool with setting anybody up as long as I believe that they have a complete collection or that they have access to a complete collection, and as long as they understand the insane time commitment that it's going to take to get it done. You know, if I feel like they want to do it, I'll set up the page and I'll help with the brand, and I'll set up a few template pages, and teach them how to use it and just set them loose on it. I'd love to see someone do modern 3D Joes. I've been trying to hassle Greg into doing it for years. He's ducking out
as he fades off the pay.
I mean, literally, we got a little group of friends here called the Triangle Joes, and we all just kind of put the heat on Greg to knock out modern 3D Joes. But I don't know.
I think like one day I would do it, but like one day far down the road. I've done some of like a couple of spins for the regular 3D Joes, so I know like firsthand how much that is.
Tell them how long it takes to make a spin.
It's tricky. It's like I think I just did photography for them, and for the vehicles it took me like several hours because you have to make sure you have it centered. Some of the vehicles I was doing what's the damn orange Iron Grenadier one with the big ball in the middle?
Oh, the
Razorback.
Come on,
Razorback.
I don't. I'm not a GI Joe fan.
He's not a vintage guy at all.
Oh.
That like things like that are really hard to keep centered on the spins, and it's just then the editing afterwards is probably another hour or two. So it's a time consuming process on that. And when you get into modern, that's something where you have hundreds of figures. So,
of just Snake Eyes alone.
Yeah, no, it's Snake Eyes, Cobra Commander, and Storm Shadow would be half of the site.
Oh God, yeah.
Just flavors of those three. So
now I was at JoeCon this year, and I was able to look through the books, the art books y'all had, and I'm actually kicking myself in the ass for not picking any of them up because it's like on Sunday you kind of ration your shut up Fred, you kind of ration your money a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just never made it back over there before the end of the show. But my friend Rick, who I do Cybercast with, just messaged me, and he was like, he picked up 3 of the books from you at JoeCon. And I think to myself as I say that, why didn't you get the 4th one while you were there?
The 4th one, okay, so the 4th one is Offset. Oh.
Hold on a sec. I got to enlarge this. What's he saying?
Mike is not.
Oh.
Yeah, so the 4th one, honestly, in my opinion, is the best one yet. It's got the most artwork in it. It's all offset lithograph print, so the print quality is a touch better than the digital interiors of the previous 3 volumes. And the way the pages lay out for like Slaughter's Marauders and the Tiger Force and the Python Patrol, like
Tiger Force,
dude, I love it. I think it turned out really well, man. So
was that the one that had the real like flashy cover on it?
It's got the Crusader, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
no, that's not the one I was thinking about.
It's the cover that's just sexy. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it.
So volume 4, man, you got to double back for that. It's a good volume.
When you started doing this, and with now everything going on with Kickstarter and people's stuff getting shut down, did you have to get permission or any legal issues or anything? Did you have to line out in order to do this legally?
Not so far. So, back in Indianapolis, that was 2013, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember? 2013. So that was the very first JoeCon that I had anything like 3D Joes related. I just had the 3D Joes of the 80s poster. And I remember Daryl DePriest coming by, and he just said, "It looks like you found your in." Right? So I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask a bunch of questions. Just going to keep rolling. And then last year at JoeCon, I had a sit-down conversation with Mark Weber, and that went really well. And they basically said, we consider you a brand ally. You keep people talking about G.I. Joe, especially during periods of low tide like now. So, yeah, I mean, I think over the years they've been supportive. There has been some ripples lately. There's been some people that have had to change their logos. There's been, just some things happening. I think the Sentinel project might have kicked up some dust and gotten some people involved that are starting to more closely look at things. Hopefully Hasbro sees me. I'll just be completely candid right here. I have given them a ton of information about 3D Joes and what we do, and the amount of traffic that we've been able to yield over the last 5 years and the lack of profits. I think people are surprised when you look at the Kickstarters and you think, man, this guy's raised over $100,000 over like 5 projects. They might look at that and say, hey, man, he might actually be making some money off of this. We have to kill it. In all honesty, like I shared all the numbers from the last Kickstarter, and we're 10 in the hole on that one $10,000 in the hole on that one because we had to reprint volumes 1 and 2 to fulfill the all-in orders. And so I've shared all that info, and I think so far so good. You know, I haven't received any cease and desist letters. I haven't been told to stop doing what I'm doing. So, you know, I think we're fine for now.
And I think as long as, I think you mentioned the Sentinel, and we had Tony on here, you know, back weeks, you know, months ago. I think where Tony's project basically attracted some negative attention from Hasbro is that he was producing a figure. Whereas when you start to get too close to what Hasbro themselves could do, and I mean, let's be honest, you know, Hasbro, in theory, in parts of their archive, has a lot of, you know, at least a fair amount of this original artwork in some form still. Yeah. Had Hasbro been interested in doing a project of art restoration, they probably would have done it, and they probably would have done it for the 25th, which was the real big marketing resurgence of going back to a lot of this. And for whatever reason,
there is no reason that they would recreate every piece of art digitally for the 25th anniversary if they still had it all.
Yeah,
I think that's our number one clue. You know, the question's thrown out there, do they have a complete archive? In my mind, I don't think there's any way that they do, because why would you reinvest all that money in re-illustrating stuff, oftentimes at a slightly lower quality? And that's not a knock against the digital artist of today. It's just they're not going to touch the painted art that Hector Garrido and the other guys were doing back in the day. They're not going to touch it. So I think if Hasbro had a complete archive, it would have made total sense. Just reutilize that for 25th. I've had some, you know, pretty in-depth conversations with Kurt Bazigian and Ron Rudat. I've gone up and visited them in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and done audio interviews with them, put creative profiles up on the page. That was probably the highlight of my whole 3D Joe's experience, was like a 3-day trip up there where I met with Guy and with Kirk and with Ron. And they all independently told me stories about 2 different floods that hit the archives, and an executive, an overzealous executive, that decided to save money by throwing out a lot of the archive stuff. You know, Ron personally told me about dumpster diving to save some things. Yeah. Wow. They had their old headquarters, and there was a fire on the 4th floor, and the the sprinklers put the fire out, but it all flooded down into the basement. The basement was referred to as the morgue, and that's where all the molds and the artwork and stuff were stored. And so a lot of stuff was trashed then. I believe that was 1978 when Kirk had first come on at Hasbro, and so that would have affected the earlier Joe stuff. They ended up moving the archive to another building, and there was something about torrential downpour raining for like multiple days that ended up flooding again. It's like the morgue kept getting targeted. And so there was at least 2 floods, and there was one overzealous executive who threw some stuff away. So I think a lot of that stuff's missing, honestly.
So, and you know, it's also something that people probably didn't think that it was going to be relevant in 30 years. You know, I'm always reminded of I'm a Doctor Who fan, and so back in the day, you know, you hear about, I think it was 78, 79, the BBC had this warehouse that had film reels, and it had copies of every Doctor Who story, and they were getting nailed on insurance because it was overcrowded. So they went, you know, we'll keep select ones for archive purposes, because in the 70s you aired something, maybe it re-aired once, or there's a little bit of syndication, and then it was gone. And they threw out, you know, whole seasons worth of stories. And I think that when you describe this exec, you know, a couple execs, you know, it's just package art. We've got, you know, To the Rescue stored somewhere, which Kirk has said they do. And, you know, we've got a few things, but do we really need to keep, you know, the pack rats? Yeah. You know, we can toss those. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Kirk will say this, like, you know, no remorse in his voice. He doesn't feel sorry about it. They were creating toys to sell. They weren't creating collectibles to preserve for all time. You know what I mean?
They weren't expecting it to be as big as it is now.
They didn't think we'd still be obsessing over it 30 years later.
Right, exactly. They didn't think when back in the 70s, 80s, they just mothballed it, and like you said, the morgue and people throwing stuff away. They don't think of these kind of things that you know, it's going to be a hot commodity for 30 plus years, and grown-ass men are still collecting plastic toys and artwork and books and anything for G.I. Joe. Pretty much anything you can get your hands on nowadays is a hot commodity because let's be honest, there's not much of anything for GI Joe right now.
Well, it's just a sign again of how well those guys back on the team did their job, and they did it in a way that I don't even think they could have anticipated. How much of a seed they planted in all of our minds that GI Joe is something special. You know, it wasn't, you know, GI Joe was one of many toys on the shelves back in the day, you know, and there were other companies that were producing, you know, we're producing similar looking action figures after a while, Cough Remco, Cough American Defense. But the whole point is that there was something about, you know, the packaging, the file cards, the cartoon, the comic, you know, the Marvel Comics animated commercials, you know, the choose your own adventures, find your fate books, the blueprints. You know, it was such a multifaceted approach that hit us in so many ways that you know, again, we're all of a certain age now, and we're still talking about this. This is stuff that would have hit us when we were, what, 7 to 10?
Yeah.
And it was still a part of all our lives.
It was lightning in a bottle, you know? It was crazy. The multifaceted approach that you were just talking about, the fact that all those things were in sync, right? If you read the comic, if you watched the cartoon, if you read the file card on the back of the actual action figure, it was all in sync. The core characters were the same. Like, of course, they were going to be kind of silly on the cartoon, and they're going to be a little more mature in the comic book, but it was a consistent brand experience across all those different deliverables. And toy companies don't do that now, right? I mean, so it was pretty amazing. It was a very special time, and there's a reason that we're all still hung up on it and talking about it, you know? One of the things I wanted to mention about the question about the package art and the archive and that kind of thing is you guys have probably already heard this story. If you've read Volume 4, you're well aware of this. But, I mean, we've definitely confirmed at this point that every single re-released figure and vehicle that had an original piece of art, they painted right over that artwork to create the new artwork for the re-release. So all those Night Force vehicles, all those Python Patrol figures, all those Tiger Force figures, those were painted over the originals. So when Hasbro had the tour in 2010, they showed off a bunch of artwork that they still had in their archive. You'll notice there's some Sky Patrol stuff in there. There's some Night Force stuff in there. There's not the originals of any of those things because the originals were painted over. One of the examples, if you're looking at the book and you go to the overview for the 1989 Night Force, you can see on the original Moray where just below deck under those two little hatches, Ripper and a Cobra Eel have their little bug eyes looking out of the hatch. And then if you go to the Night Ray from 1989, Ripper and the Eel are still under. They painted over every single other figure. It's like they just missed it, or they wanted to leave it as an Easter egg or something. So it's like you've either got some stowaway terrorist on board, or they're you know. So
Ripper was hitting the hard grape soda, passed out below decks, woke up. It's like, go on, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. Just the simple fact that they would paint over the original artwork. I understand why that would be quicker, because then you don't have to think about things like perspective and lighting, you know, shading and all that kind of stuff. You just apply kind of a new color, you know, new set of colors to it, and you're done. So pretty mind blowing.
And that's something that in an era of digital art would be, they could keep the original file, they'd create a copy, rework a few things, and
you duplicate the file, give it a different suffix, and get to work, you know?
Photoshop out the Cobra drivers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get rid of the Eel and the Ripper. I mean, that's crazy.
So okay, aside from G.I. Joe, what would be if you were to branch out into, you know, your next project beyond, you know, you get to the point where you finished 3D Joes, you've got everything done.
Yeah.
What would be next?
Well, I think my challenge is going to be stopping myself from doubling back and redoing everything at a higher level, because, you know, over the 5 years that I've been working on this stuff, and Chad Huckle that's helping me with a lot of the Photoshop restoration, we look at stuff that we did a few years ago and we're no longer content with it, you know. So I think the challenge is going to be once I finish the 1994 vehicle archive and finish the books. There's volume 5 is underway right now. We've already scanned all the boxes. Those are being restored right now. So volume 5's in the works. It's actually going to feature 1990, 1991, and 1992. Nice. And then volume 6 is going to be 93, 94 because there's so many more figures. And there's also going to be 12 pages of a bonus section of international artwork for volume 6. Yeah, that's an announcement right here. So anyway, with volume 6, we'll do a slipcase, and that'll hold all 6 of the books. So that's the big goal, you know, in terms of like making physical stuff that people can own. It's 2 more books and I'm done, right? I think with the posters, we might already be done.
I think we're done. I'm going to say we're done.
Yeah.
So 3D Joe's, you heard it from me. We're done with posters.
Yeah.
Say something different later, but I'm saying we're done with posters.
So here's the thing, man. My house is only 1,200 square feet. And if you can see this big black thing in the background, that's like a flat file that'll hold up to 14 posters, right? And that thing's maxed out. I've got a U-Haul unit full of posters, and honestly, I mean, I'll just be candid. I understand people have limited wall space. We don't sell that many posters. We really don't. Everything we've made up till this point, we've made because we want to make it. We want to own it. We want to have it on our walls and that kind of stuff, right? But I'm really proud that we made it from 1982 to 1989. You can own, you know, every figure, every vehicle, every play set. They're all offset lithograph prints, so there's no higher quality print than that. So I'm really happy with what we were able to do with the posters, but posters might have to be done. I mean, if I look at the last 2 Kickstarters, the books have been subsidizing the posters, right? Okay. You know, we're spending way more on printing the posters than we're making in backers, right? The Defiant poster just by itself was $4,500. The USS flag was the same way because we had to use an oversized print, oversized offset lithograph print. Once you get over a certain dimension, it just gets 3 times as expensive.
Yeah.
So the 24 by 36s are $1,500 a piece, whereas like the Flag and Defiant were $4,500 a piece. With the last Kickstarter, we printed 4 regular size posters and 1 giant Defiant poster. So that was 15, 3, 6. That was over $10,000, like $10,500 just in printing for those 5 posters. And we honestly didn't have that many backers that wanted all 5 of those posters. So it's just kind of, you know, the posters have started to be subsidized by the books.
Sure.
And I'm out of space, candidly. Like my 1,200 square foot house is out of space, man. We're catching and releasing for a reason here. Like it's out of control. So I think, you know, do 2 more books and be really proud of what we were able to accomplish.
Nice.
After G.I. Joe, there's only one other toy line from my childhood that I really have a lot of passion for. And
Mask.
No. So I got out of toys in 1990, right? We had the Dick cartoon on TV. Everybody knows they cut cost on the Dick cartoon, right? The toys were still cool. Like Ambush had some of the best accessories. Bullhorn with his triple rifle that came apart and went in the backpack. Yeah. They were still knocking it out of the park in 1990. So by no fault of, you know, the toy developer people, I was just growing out of it. I was 11 years old. The cartoon wasn't doing anything for me anymore. The toys were still great, but I think I was just growing out of it.
Your best years were behind you. Right old age of 11.
I remember my good friends that I would play toys with. They had all abandoned toys like a year or 2 earlier. And one of my friends, Brian, I came over to his house with my little red cases full of G.I. Joes, and he was like, "Carson, next time you come over, can you leave your G.I. Joes at home?" I was like, "You bastard."
That might explain everything. Yeah. Some like deep-seated trauma.
It was traumatizing. There's a reason, like, I still remember where we were in his house, like when we had this conversation. I don't remember that kind of stuff. So it was a traumatic moment. Like, I regretfully put toys behind me. You know what I mean? So that was in 1990. And like 3 or 4 years later, Exo Squad came out, and the cartoon blew me away. It was linear. Every episode built off of the previous episode. It challenged you to be smart. It covered really serious topics. The Neo-Sapiens were basically the slaves of the moment kind of thing. They were having a rebellion, but technology kind of helped the humans put down the Neo-Sapiens and make them slaves again. So you ended up like real conflicted about, well, shit, should I pull for the Neo-Sapiens? You know, because they're getting a raw deal here. So anyway, the Neo-Sapiens end up, over 40 or 50 years building up their technology, and then they finally have a successful revolt. And then the humans are enslaved. You're like, so then you see humans enslaved, and you're like, well, man, I should be pulling for the humans, but I don't know, So it was just, it was really complex. it felt like, you know, the Exo Squad cartoon was as serious as the Larry Hama like Marvel comic, right? It was like that level of challenging you. And so then I went to the store and I picked up some toys. This was like 3 or 4 years after I had stopped buying toys, and the toys were really high quality. So yeah, I only collected them for like a year, but I remember being really passionate about it and really like caught by surprise that I actually still love toys. So I think after I finish up 3D Joe's, I might do something with that. I've, you know, dropping hints, but I've almost collected every single one of them at this point.
Oh, excellent.
And I've got them in the packages too. Like not all of them are mint in box, but they are all like in the packaging. So I could document all the packages and I could document all the figures. And I think they're the right scale for that 360 photography technology to really shine.
Yeah, because the figures are smaller. They were, what, 3-inch, I want to say?
Yeah,
something like that.
We've had some conversations about this. We've kind of debated. Obviously, like most of our friends that are collectors, they want their toys at 4-inch scale or 3 3/4-inch scale, right? And Exo Squad's significantly smaller than that. I'll just say it's 3 inches. Maybe it's 2 3/4 or something. But they're significantly smaller. So looking at the economics of creating a toy line today, would anybody ever be able to reproduce the vehicles and the E-frames and stuff like that that they created? Probably not.
You're
right?
gonna get them when you get your 4-inch scale mask vehicles in scale.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Your Matt Tracker figure.
Which would be incredible. Like that little black Bronco that they had, if they made that at G.I. Joe scale, I'd buy that shit in half a heartbeat. It's an awesome vehicle. But will it happen? I don't know. We'll see. So here's the thing. We were talking about how would you bring Exo Squad back as a line. I think, you know, you should get somebody like Boss Fight or whatever to do a modern Exo Squad figure line that's still at that scale of 2.75 or 3 inches or whatever, so that collectors like us, you can still buy these old Exo Squad vehicles for relatively cheap, right? Especially if they're not complete or whatever. So, you know, capitalize on all those awesome toys that are just, you know, collecting dust on shelves. Create some modern figures that are more kick-ass, to be honest, than the figures that they came with, because the figures had really good articulation, but the mold details they didn't blow me away. The vehicles and the E-frames blew me away. The level of detail on the figures did not. So what I'd like to see is a modern toy line with modern mold detail at that smaller scale. Greg will probably bring the counterpoint.
Well, I'll actually eat crow a little bit on the scale issue. I've seen some companies recently, like I think some third parties doing some Transformers type stuff. And then Acid Rain licensed out their properties, and they're doing like a 2-inch, 2.5-inch scale figures with the transforming vehicles.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, people are still doing vehicles. They're just going to that smaller size.
Yeah.
So
a lot of Joe fans say they'll never make the jump, either to smaller, you know, 3-inch or to larger 6-inch. A lot of Joe fans just vehemently, you know, oppose that idea.
Well, and it's kind of like when they went from O-ring to no-ring figures now. You know, when they first did the GVC, the G.I. Joe versus Cobra relaunch around 2001, those were new sculpt figures, but they were the same size as the O-ring figures. You could mix them in. You could dig out your old vehicle, but give it a new crew.
Same size with giant shoulder rivets.
Oh, yeah. Well, that line had its own special...
its own special T-crotch madness.
I mean, at least the T-crotch only happened for like a year, right? I mean, they tested that, and then in short order.
I like the ones that have action features, like the buttons. And then you press it, the guy like twists the waist in like a weird.
Yeah.
Classic.
But you know, it's
that's where the brand really hit its stride. It's a shame you guys didn't pick up the slack there.
I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it.
Now, if people who aren't aware of everything, where all can they find you at besides? I mean, I know Facebook and your webpage. But I mean, if they want it, now I know you do the books online. You sell the books online.
I do.
You also sell the posters as well.
That's right. Really, the only place that I sell any of this stuff is just 3D Joe's. So it's the number 3, the letter D, and then JOES.com. And then in the top right corner, there's a tab called Store, and then you'll see the posters page and the book page. If you just want the URL, it's 3djoes.com/books or 3djoes.com/posters. social media, top right corner, there's Facebook links and Twitter links, and I talk to people on there every day. So I try to be, really responsive. And, part of the fun, like it's not just building the website. I actually really love the Facebook page that I have, because as I'm working on stuff that's not like ready to be shared on the site or not ready for prime time, I can go ahead and share stuff over Facebook. And that's just a fun way to kind of drive conversation. Like Mark was saying, just try to get people excited about G.I. Joe, talking about G.I. Joe, still interested. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I put up some 3D bubbly stickers, right, that somebody had given me. And then immediately Paige reached out to me and he was like, man, I've got like 14 of those sets. Do you want me to scan them and send them to you? I'm like, hell yeah. So by that time, the next week, we had a page on 3D Joes that, in my opinion, documents every one of those 3D like puffy stickers. People can always get on 3D Joes and check me, right? Let me know if I'm missing something. Please let me know, because I do want it to be comprehensive. The first place that I ever check for anything is Yo Joe, obviously. And I try to make sure that I've captured everything that they've captured. And then if there's anything else that I find, I'll give you one example. I've been collecting lunch boxes for like 2 years now. If you go into my kitchen, the entire top of the kitchen above all the shelves are just these lunch boxes that I've collected. And so I've got every one that Yojo has, and then I've got, I think, 2 more. And so I'm kind of always waiting and watching eBay search queries like G.I. Joe lunchbox and making sure that I have everything, because I don't want to jump too soon, right? Like I want to put up a page when it's fully baked and get things right. So anyway, if you're ever on 3D Joe's and you see a page and you're like, well, he's missing one of these items or whatever, please let me know, because I will get in a hunter-killer mode and try to find it and document it and, get it right.
I heard there's a sleeping bag that you're missing.
You bastard.
In your collection.
You won't see a 3D Joe's sleeping bag page because I have no degree of certainty that I've collected all of them. And while I was out of town, my brother's in Europe right now. He's in the Army and he's in Germany. And so I went to visit him. And we have this local toy shop, shout out to Cro-Mag Toys. And every now and then, like when they get a unique G.I. Joe item, they immediately reach out to me and Greg, because they know me as the 3D Joe's guy, and they know Greg is like, Greg buys and sells a shitload of stuff, right? So they reach out to us right away, and I'm out of town, and he sells it to one of our friends instead of me.
It was like a Tiger Force sleeping bag.
It's a 1988 sleeping bag. It's a freaking train wreck. It's got Tiger Force stuff on it. It's got an iron grenadier.
There's an iron grenadier. I think there's a bug.
Yeah, there's a bug. There's a bug coming out of the water. There's Tiger Force vehicles. There's a grenadier, but the Iron Grenadier is running like in the same direction as a Tiger Force guy. It's like, are they on the same team? It's a train wreck. So I'm sorry that I didn't get it, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad it's not filling up my house right now.
All right.
So
and
anyway.
right now, Mike is typing on eBay, Tiger Force sleeping bag.
It's so funny he should mention Tiger Force sleeping bag and lunchbox, to a buddy of mine that came over here earlier.
Yep.
Was telling me, he was like, oh, hey, that reminds me. I got this Tiger Force lunchbox at my house.
Yep.
You can just have it next time you're over. So I like, he knows I love Tiger Force.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I got this. It's got a little tear at the bottom, but besides that, it's perfect. You can have it. It's a blue lunchbox. Okay, great.
I posted, preview pictures of my whole lunchbox collection on one of the pages, a discussion page, and immediately Sam, I don't know, Nomads is his Facebook.
Oh, Sam Damon, yeah.
Yeah, so he immediately chimed in. He was like, "Yeah, but do you have the variant Tiger Force lunchbox?" I was like, "Damn it!" you think you're so close, and it's like you got the blue one, but now you need the red one. So. Yeah, it's always a chase, man, and that's part of the fun. I mean, that's what it's a little shot of dopamine every time you find something that you haven't found before, and you get that new pickup. So, I mean, that's part of the reason that I do it. But also, creating something is very meaningful for me. So,
well, guys, we appreciate y'all coming on. We're actually going to go into the rest of our program. You're more welcome to stay on and chime in.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
Okay.
No,
We're chilling.
no lives tonight. We're just.
What are you talking about? We're grown men. We have no lives at all.
I love this life, man.
Yeah.
It's Saturday night. What else are we going to do? Oh, wait.
Right.
Just a little bit of sad news for people who did not know. We lost Wally Blur this past week, July the 9th. He was a big part of the Joe Transformers. I mean, a lot of 80s cartoons, the director, the voice director of a lot of stuff he was doing. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family for the loss of him. I actually got to meet him in 2013 at BotCon. He was there in San Diego. Of course, I can't find on here how old Wally was, but even
like
then,
93, I want to say.
He was up there, and
he had a heck of a life.
Yeah, I remember they were getting him to do all his autograph, signing like the golden ticket print and stuff, and he, you could tell he was at that age where me personally, it was great to meet the man, but it's kind of like, yeah, he probably needed to stay home, in my opinion. But I mean, he came out, so I'm assuming he still wanted to see the fans regardless. But
cool.
Now we're going to go to a little segment that Fred's like to call. Hopefully, I get it right on the first try.
Oh, it's screen share. This is always fun.
Yay!
Mike can screen share, not so much.
I know what I just did wrong too. Damn
God, that is a sexy, sexy photo. I'm just gonna say it.
That's a good looking set.
Oh.
Okay, what are y'all seeing? Are y'all seeing the whole set, or?
I am seeing a beautiful shot with 3 figures and a Cobra missile command base.
Okay.
Well, I was.
Okay, there we go.
That makes me self-conscious.
Y'all still see it?
Yeah, no, I see it. I actually clicked.
Sure.
I clicked on one of the little boxes in the bottom right corner to pull it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Long as y'all can see the picture, that's all I care about. All right. So, if you've been hiding in a hole, we all know this is the San Diego Comic-Con G.I. Joe or G.I. Joe exclusive that we will get. This is a reissued. Fred, do you remember the exact year the original came out by some chance?
This was like 82, wasn't it? This was Sears, Christmas time.
Okay.
And because they didn't have anything else, and as Kirk likes to describe it, they just created the little cardboard playset. And I remember my dad still to this day like, well, we'll get that after Christmas. You're not paying good money for cardboard, and I still don't have one. I will be getting one. And this is actually, they did some updates. They went and they updated the artwork. If you noticed in the back, in the pipe over the top of the missile, they updated the Cobra Trooper to reflect the 30th, 50th, whatever the hell anniversary they're calling it now, design a little more.
52nd anniversary.
Yeah. And one of the things I always, it's kind of a tangent, but it ties back to this. When I was a kid, my dad introduced me to the Bond films when they used to show them on ABC. And when I see this, I am reminded of the Bond movie You Only Live Twice, with that crazy volcano base that Ken Adam designed. And that's exactly the aesthetic of this. So this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous set. He's got the pictures of the box up now. Yep. The box even looks like it's vintage, but again, it's not trying to replace the vintage artwork. There are differences, and the figures are different in the photo. For $50, this is a no-brainer.
This is
here.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, this is the only product. I say, okay, I'm gonna go.
Finish.
I'm going. All right. So, this is the only product from 82 to 94 that had product photography on the front of it, and I think that speaks to the crunch time that they were in when they were preparing this. So Kirk talked, when I went up there and did those audio interviews with him, he was talking about this quite a bit. I love this set. It's an anomaly though. We never got anything else like it in many ways. One of the things that struck me was obviously the photography on the front. The other thing, which has already been touched on, is that it's a cardboard playset. So Sears, they went into Sears and they were showing them their product, and Sears basically said, well, what do you have that can be exclusive for us? And they didn't have time to do anything else. So they went back, and it was just Kirk and Ron working on this, just the two of them. And Ron drew every single piece of this, that whole cardboard playset. Ron drew it, and I think he did it in a week, is what he told me. So he just banged it out. They used the previously existing molds for the figures that they already had, and they put it up on Sears shelves. And I think it was available for 2 years. It was first available with the straight arm figures, and then it was available with the swivel arm figures.
Yeah.
And it was only available through Sears. And yeah, so this is a very rare, very pricey set. When I sold mine, I bought a house and I had to let my 82 to 85 AFA collection go, and I had to let some expensive, valuable stuff go like this. Like I remember I sold mine for $1,400, man.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
This here will, as me being a Transformer fan, and I do a lot of Transformer collecting. That's one thing I noticed is once they put a reissue out, it kills the original. So I could see the bottom falling out on this on eBay or sales.
See,
I hope not. You know, because this one is significantly different. It's got the new photography with the modern figures. They revised the artwork, so I hope that doesn't happen. But you know, I can't argue with previous experiences of Transformers fans. That sucks.
Right, you got to remember too, D&J Toys for a while, they did a recreation of this, but it was on that corrugated plastic that you can get for signs, and that didn't really ding the value. I mean, it wasn't a mass release, but then again, neither is this. This is a Comic-Con release, and up until a few weeks ago, I would have said, well, I think this won't be impossible to get. I think it will be. I love the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander right there. I think that's
pretty good.
But the more buzz I hear about this, in any normal year, this would be the Big Joe exclusive that everybody is trying to track down. And then, of course, Hasbro decided to drop, the Moab on us this last week and hit a ton of their fandoms at once with this surprise exclusive that, oh, yeah, by the way, hold my beer and watch this. And along came I get the title correct, the Revolution Comic Crossover Mega Set.
That's awesome.
Set, which
too cool.
Yeah.
Sweet Jesus.
Sweet mother of Jesus.
I mean, I don't know where to start. It's an interesting year when we can say that the Dire Wraith is potentially the weakest thing in the set, and he still looks awesome.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is how we were told at JoeCon that you're getting no more new figures. No new Joe figures until the next movie.
Well, at retail. Remember, they said at retail.
That's true. They did.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
And then all of a sudden, on this set here, me personally, my buddy that's going, there's like 4 of them going, so they'll all be in line together to get multiples, and I've sent money for 2 missile sets and 1 of these. And, usually I throw them a little bit of money, but the guy getting it, he was talking about how he was going to buy one and he just wanted the visionary out of it, and I'm not real a big fan of it. And I told him, like, hey, you get my stuff for me this year, you can just have that figure. Okay. And he was all over it. And the ones out of this set for me personally, of course, is the Jetfire, which is a kind of like the Takara one they used, which didn't have the chrome on the red. They did, which is better. And then this has an updated head to match up with the original comic.
Mike, do you have the individual photos of each one that I sent you in the email? If you do, we could just go through them, because honestly, I look at these pictures and, I'm not a Transformer guy as much. I don't own a Jetfire, so I'm automatically down for Jetfire. Plus, as we were talking about before the show, being a Robotech guy, but there's not a bad piece in this set. I grew up I was born in 73, so I'm a little older here. And I still remember the Micronauts at retail, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah. And
I want every one of those little PVC Micronauts in the worst freaking way.
It's like a cool little Micro Machine vibe going on with those ones.
Oh my God. It's, Biotron. My God. One of my friends growing up, Bob Woolsey, if you're listening, had Biotron, and I hated him for having Biotron. We'd have to go to his house to play with it. And so, Mike's got the money shot up for most jokes.
So excited about the Roadblock.
This is honestly is really the only reason I was getting this box set, was because of Roadblock. Because the way I see it, that's our retaliation block. I mean, our Renegades.
It is. Yeah, it is, absolutely.
That's the Renegades we never got.
And that's the final, key character that we hadn't had in action figure form yet, right? So, I think Mark got on discussion the other day and said, this is my parting gift. Basically, I think it's the last thing that he worked on, and it completes the set, man. So anybody that was, really into Renegades, and, I was digging it. My nephew was digging it, we finally get Roadblock, and people have been wanting him for years.
Oh God, yeah. Especially since those leaked photos showed up from what was supposed to be the Amazon exclusive.
That's a Robert Atkins drawing. So what are those? How are they selecting the artwork that they're showing with this?
I think it's just based on the comics. The idea.
Yeah, they were just random comic tie-ins.
Okay, I was wondering because I didn't understand this picture at all. It looks nothing like a Roadblock.
That's not Renegade's Roadblock.
You can see how the figure doesn't match up with the comic at all, but it's a way to get at one, I guess, that the fans wanted. So
yeah, and you know what? I'm perfectly okay that it doesn't match the artwork in this case.
Yeah.
You know, when he's in my greedy little hand, I will be very happy.
Right.
You got Matt Tracker up now, and Matt Tracker actually is not a straight repaint of the previous one. The arms and the legs are different. Plus,
the head, right?
New head.
Yeah.
We get a new head on this. So
you have to.
I know a lot of people are you know, I've seen a lot of controversy. I shared these pictures on JBL's Facebook, and this photo is the one that had like the crazy discussion about, you know, they changed him. Look, it's an alternate universe. It's its own thing. I'm getting a new head sculpt that I would love to see the club even repurpose if they could get it for hardball. Cough, that would be brilliant. And he looks sharp. He's different enough from the other Matt Tracker release. Yeah, give it to me. I'll take it. Yeah,
see, that was a lot. Even the I can't remember his name. He's friends with me on Facebook, but the gentleman who took over doing Mass Comics, and when he was asked to do it, he asked if he could, you know, reinvent everything, you know, change it up, and they said yes, and so he decided to make Mac Tracker black
and younger. He is significantly younger in these comics.
And he even said on Facebook after this came out, you know, he said he could not believe how much controversy and hate there was for people upset about this. And I was thinking to myself, come on, people, we're in the, you know, look how far we are in today's society. We're really going to complain about making, you know, a white guy black on a action figure. I mean, to me, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I mean, it's cool looking. I mean, this is one of the other figures that I had high up on this set that I want to keep.
Well, and you know, again, we've already had a more traditional Matt Tracker in an unexpected release on the 25th anniversary. So
if you want a Caucasian Matt Tracker, go buy that figure, right?
There you go.
The
I'm going to have the two standing side by side. I think it's kind of cool to have like the then and now.
And you could buy a couple more and put different heads on them. Then it's a whole team of
them. Look, Scarlet's Matt Tracker. Oh wait, Tripwater.
I like the parts they use for that one. It looks like the arms are more like Pursuit of Cobra or Retaliation.
Yeah.
I think there's like an armored torso underneath, so that's a cool, like, even further update on the original.
I'm wondering if that's the same torso that they did for Action Man. I couldn't tell, and I'm just kind of winging it because Action Man has a new torso.
Sweet, let's check that boy out.
I want this figure, and there's something about Action Man that just intrigues me.
Look at that hair. It's like Chris McLeod style, man. Shout out to Chris.
And have you guys been reading any of the IDW Revolution comics?
I won the hardcover at JoeCon, and I've yet to read it, but I can't wait.
In the Revolutionaries comic, so it's a new series where it's the mixed team. You know, it's somebody from everybody.
Yep.
Action Man and Cup from the Transformers are this buddy cop duo.
Oh wow!
I can't get enough of it because I've always loved Cup. So when I saw him, I'm like, yeah, I need Action Man to stand next to Cup.
Very cool.
And again, a lot of new parts on this figure. From what I can see, that torso is new. The hair is new.
I thought art's pretty damn good.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so, all right, we've got a friend that's a big ROM fan, and I'm sure Joe is just like shitting bricks about this thing, man. To get ROM at 4-inch scale with like highly articulated modern sculpt, compared, I mean, when you look at the original ROM figure, it was nothing to write home about, right? So I'm sure this figure makes the set for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's the same scale as Marvel Universe, so you know all those guys with their lineup of characters that they got. They didn't get ROM, so now they have a 4-inch scale ROM to go.
So cool thing about ROM back in the day, like the action figure only sold for maybe 2 years tops.
Yeah,
but the comic book was published by Marvel, And they kept going with the ROM comic book for years and years. And the Dire Wraiths and ROM made it into several other Marvel comics. Like, it stuck around Marvel continuity for quite a while. It was pretty big hit. So, yeah, to Greg's point, I'm sure there's a lot of Marvel collectors that are freaking stoked to get this.
In fact, James Gunn had gone on record recently in one of the interviews for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Mm-hmm. He had wanted to include ROM in sort of a cameo as a teaser for 3. Yep. And that's when the whole Marvel rights issue got brought back up, because again, it wasn't Parker Brothers initially. It was like a board game company, and ROM was going to be their foray into action figures. And, I'm looking at this, he's got Gung Ho's arms, I think. And he's got the 25th the Battle Armor Cobra Commander legs, but that torso, that head, and that nullifier gun that he carried, like, damn, that is sexy as all hell. And you're right. People are going to put him, if they're not getting him and they don't want to put him with Joe, he's going over on Marvel Universe with like Captain Marvel and the Guardians and Quasar and Thanos and the Cosmic Marvel stuff. And damn, he's another part of this whole home run thing. The only thing that really makes him different are the hands, because he's got fingers in IDW, and in Marvel he always had those kind of mittens.
Gotcha.
But
are they still having that legal dispute over the Dire Wraiths and everything?
So the last I read is that IDW has had to change the appearance slightly, I believe, and the origins a little bit. And so Marvel's still got the Dire Wraiths that have been, the traditional Dire Wraiths, and then IDW has theirs. But it was crazy how that was panning out.
And they both get the same. They keep the same name.
I need to read back more into it, but yeah, it seems like they both can use it. I don't think Marvel's really doing anything with it anymore. I think they're just kind of sitting on the fact, because they even appeared in the X-Men at one point. Yeah, very, very briefly, but they appeared in Claremont's X-Men. So
cool.
And then who's Mike got next? He's got the Black Screen of Death.
Nothing.
Nope.
Cross dissolve. There we go.
Speaking of the Dire Wraith, well, maybe. and is it me, or does he kind of look like it's the Doc Dire Wraith from the comics a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
If you guys have read the comics, turns out Doc was a Dire Wraith.
Oh wow, okay. And I would say that's a Doc outfit.
I think it's the Doc outfit and bandolier.
So. Yeah, with Duke's with a little bit of Duke's medallion or his Ranger pin showing up there, but I again, zombie Viper arms, but they make sense. And that head is slick.
This one here, I don't care for it at all.
Really, just not feeling it.
I'll take your extra.
You kind of need to army build those, right?
Oh, give me more.
Yeah, I just didn't like this one. There's a couple I'll be letting go out of my set, which is going to be this one and the Action Man and the Micronauts, I think.
Oh, talk to me, Mike, before you part with them. I will take every single one of those off your hands.
Yeah, so I think you're not going to have any problem selling that figure, man. People are going to want to own multiples of those.
So you got what? Now, see, Visionaries, it's weird. Visionaries is the one that I know the least about.
Right. Yeah, I can't help you with that either. I will say the only thing that I noticed right when I looked at this set, the first disappointment that I had, right? Because like initially we're just freaking fired up and excited to get new toys, and then you start to really analyze it critically and pick it apart, right? And Visionaries were all about those holograms, and there's no holograms. Yeah. I'm like, come on, man. The same guy that sculpted the Dove emblem, that sculpted so many of the holograms from back in the day, sculpted all these Visionary holograms, and so that was the selling point. Yeah. I'm sure somebody third party will offer something. I should hope. I don't even know how hard it is to manufacture a hologram, but this would be like getting a bat without a lenticular label. You know, to me, some things just shouldn't you shouldn't release a bat without a lenticular, and you shouldn't release a visionary without a hologram.
I agree. It would be like having a transformer that doesn't transform.
Right.
You know, he's just a plain. Oh, like our Comic-Con exclusives. Oh wait. Fuchsia Power Glide. Still love him, but you know.
Right. Now these are cool, man.
Oh, these take me back. Like again, they didn't have a cartoon behind them. This was another one where like Marvel did a comic series, and man, the Micronauts stuck around for longer than you would have thought.
Oh yeah.
But you know, I can still remember. Mike, can you blow it up to full screen? Or here, yeah. I remember Biotron, that big hunkin' dude, the red and white guy on the right, and then the orange one was one of the aliens. I can't remember which race he was. I linked to it on the JBL piece. And then the other two are just the IDW's take on some classic characters. I think she's supposed to be the old Orbital Defender, which had that cool backpack that was like up in Orbital Defender was part of last year's Comic-Con exclusive Micronaut set.
Cool.
So
are they featuring the Micronauts in any of the comics yet?
Yes. Micronauts have their own title, and then they're also part of Revolutionaries. Nice. If you read the big Revolution crossover, they're in it, the whole thing. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There's Acra Year. I wanted him so bad when I was a kid. That one with the turbo fans on his back. Like he was the badass of the Micronauts. And then the other one, I believe I have to look up. I can't tell if I think that's Time Traveler. I'm pretty certain that's supposed to be Time Traveler, which was another. He was the one that he was done in clear, and he had he was in blue. I think he came out in green as well, because they just kept releasing them. But the fact that they even tooled these up makes me happy.
So this is just all new stuff, right? All new tooling?
Yeah, like this has not been. And then the last one there in the middle, there were two figures in Micronauts. They were essentially repaints of each other. I had the white version, which was the hero Force Commander. And then this is Baron Karza. These figures were crazy. Their torso had a big magnet in it. And then they all had balls on their shoulders and their hips. And you could pull their arms off and reconfigure them.
Oh, cool.
And they were held on by a magnet. And then the Force Commander and Baron Karza also came with a horse. And you could pull the head off the horse, drop the torso on, and make him into like a centaur.
Cool, man. I think I saw something like that at Cro-Mag Toys a couple months ago, where it was magnetic and you could reconfigure it and everything.
Yeah.
That was probably.
So Baron Karza has been in the comics. He's been a big villain. I think he was part of the next big crossover. But the thing that kills me is if in one of the next images, if Mike has it, is the size of them all in the package. This box is going to be big.
Yes, it's supposed to be a pretty big size box.
I mean, that just Jetfire alone, when you do the open package view.
And y'all know that Jetfire is a leader class.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's a huge figure, and they came in big boxes. So this is going to be a pretty decent sized box, and especially when you had all those 3 3/4 figures in there as well.
And it's so nicely designed that you almost want to have one to leave in the package too, man.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'm hard pressed if I even want to open this, and I know I'm going to, but I'm going to hate myself because, God, that's beautiful.
It is.
Mark, if you're listening, 80 slow clap, man. 80 slow clap.
We're all off sync.
And the other thing that kills me about this set is it's $100.
It's a great value.
It is.
Like, I think you get over $100 worth of individual, if you took the individual prices of 4-inch figures and micros and the Jetfire, it would be a little over $100. So to get that value in an exclusive, it's pretty solid.
It's basically retail value, but it's an exclusive that they made a lot less of.
Yeah, I mean, if you just do the 4-inch figures, there's 2, 4, 6 of them, $10 a pop. They're $60.
Jetfire alone is like a $40, $45 toy.
Yeah, the Micronauts are basically freebies, and they're awesome. So
pretty awesome, man.
Lots of new tooling, lots of figures. So
and for people who are interested in it, don't go out and blow your wad on eBay and give this time to hit Hasbro Toy Shop, because we know the last couple of years they've been kind of stocked up on those for quite a while. So I feel like, and I really think, honestly, I think that the other one, the missile set.
Yeah.
I think that might be something they might have made enough of to have at HasCon as well.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Did they say if this Revolution set is going to be carried at HasCon?
No. The information that I've seen so far from official channels, and our media release person was out of the office this week, was San Diego Comic-Con, Canada's Fan Expo, and then Hasbro Toy Shop. They specifically didn't mention HasCon.
Wow.
And what's interesting is the Cobra Missile Command set. When I posted the press release up at JBL initially, HasCon was mentioned, and I always, reach out to our media when they send me the high-res. I'm like, hey, here's the article I posted. I'm a hack writer, whatever. And she came back and said, it looks great. Can you remove the line about HasCon from the Missile Command set?
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if Missile Command is going to be available at HasCon this year.
Maybe they haven't finalized things, or they're doing different exclusives or something.
Yeah. In some ways, I think this would almost make more sense as a with HasCon being the look at all of our brands.
Yeah. This was perfect for HasCon.
This is a no-brainer. This could almost be the only exclusive for HasCon, and there's something for everyone in it.
Right.
That gives me hope that they've got something else up their sleeve for HasCon, because I don't see how they could put two such great sets together and only release them at San Diego and not have anything for HasCon that's new. So I would just wager that either these are going to be available at HasCon, which it sounds like they might not be, or they're going to have something else up their sleeve.
Yeah. Of any of them, I definitely see this being the one that has potential for HasCon. I'm really hoping.
Yeah.
That it becomes the thing. So,
up to the north of us, our good friends at where are they located at? I don't know the name of that damn town. I can't begin to pronounce it. So it's up in Canada. They're in Canada. So this is actually TFCon Toronto, which is going on this weekend, which was today and tomorrow and Friday. So basically, they have Michael Bell, who's in attendance today, as well as Arthur Burghardt, the voice of Destro, and
Sweet.
And Duke, which we both know. Well, if you don't know, they also voiced Transformer characters as well. Michael Bell was a Prowl and a Dinobot and a Constructicon, I think, an individual one. Arthur Burghardt was actually the voice of Devastator from Transformers as well. So if you're in if you live in Canada and you don't know about it, or you're not that far away, just jump over the border with a passport or a green card and jump back over after the weekend's over. Go check those guys out. Met Michael Bell, real nice guy. Never got a chance to meet Arthur. I'd really like to meet him, to be honest with you.
Arthur actually has a nice active Facebook group, the Destro Diehards, and it's kind of funny how he's like just still taken aback that people still remember this character he did in the 80s. And we're like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, there are two voices, really, when I think of the G.I. Joe cartoon. Chris Latta's Cobra Commander. I'm sorry. He is the signature voice.
Yep.
And then a lot of it really for me was Destro.
Yeah.
There was just some, well, and also Latta was also my favorite Joe Gung Ho, but Cobra Commander and Destro, I'm like, nobody bickered like those two. They were an old married couple, but
yeah, that is true. Well, I think we're going to call it there. Me and Fred talked about this earlier before we came on the air. 2 weeks from today, we are going to do the first ever Just Another G.I. Joe show early morning edition. So 2 weeks from now on a Saturday morning, we are going to welcome Kurt Bazigian as our special guest on air. The reason we're doing early morning is that that's the only time he can really give us. So we will cater to our guest as much as possible to have him on the show. He actually wanted to do JoeCon, but because of where I was originally going to be at, and having to get moved around because of the Wi-Fi connection. He actually came down to find me. He couldn't find me, and we ended up meeting up later on that night. And he was like, "Man, I tried to come find you, and you just weren't there where you said you were going to be at." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry." I had to explain to him. He understood it. He was like, "Message me. We'll get together. We'll talk." And so we're looking at 2 weeks from today. It'll probably be 10:30 Central Standard Time, which would give us 45 minutes to an hour having him on the show with us. And then we'll do our other, our tidbit news and everything we talk about after that. And another thing we'll probably do, we talked about it, and we'll see how much interest there is in it. And y'all can just send me a message on Facebook or an email, or just post it up on the our podcast, or even reach out to Fred and Joe Battle Lines if need be. So you can spam him all up. And what we're talking about doing is just another G.I. Joe. Stop it, Fred. Stop it. Damn it. I do like G.I. Joe. We're going to be doing this podcast.
Yeah, look at the wall behind you.
Shut up, Fred. I want to take my own pictures and show you I do have G.I. Joe. I got a whole case full of G.I. Joe. But anyways, we're thinking about doing a just another G.I. Joe hangout edition, where we'll go live as normal and we'll send out invites like we do for guests and co-hosts. And basically we'll just have like a get together talk, people can ask us questions, and people can ask questions in general or thoughts or stuff of that nature. Just really probably just like an hour, a hangout time where we just sit around and shoot the shit, basically, is all it really is. Just having a good time, and if we can get more than me and Fred and one other person, then we'll do it. If it's just me and Fred, then we're going to call it a night and go to bed early in our old age. You're older than me, Fred. Don't make faces.
When's that hangout going to be? Did you guys announce the time?
It'll be back to our regular time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah, so 2 weeks from today, but 6 p.m. That's going to be the just random hangout. Mike had talked to me about it tonight. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Now, 2 weeks, so that'll be the Saturday, the 29th. However, if for those of you who want to recreate the fun of Saturday morning cartoons on the 29th, get up, sit down with your pajamas and your bowl of cereal, and you can listen to the mind behind the single greatest action figure line of my childhood. Yeah. Because, with Kirk, if you've ever seen Kirk at JoeCon, I know for a lot of people, the highlight of JoeCon was always like the Hasbro panel, or it was, the club roundtable. But really, the years I've been able to go, Kirk's marketing warfare panels and just I work in marketing for my day job. So to sit there and listen to the guy who basically, as we were saying earlier, who calculated every bit of wording on the packaging and every bit of, every piece that was in there, and listen to what went into the things that we all love so much. Like, that's an awesome Saturday. Yeah. So
this is going to be really good for people who've never been able to attend a JoeCon, because I've gone 4 years straight now, and he's been at every JoeCon I've been to, and it's good. I like getting to meet him and talk to him, and like this year I was his volunteer at the autograph line, and I had a good time talking with him. Just having good conversations with him. He's a good guy to talk to. And like I said, so people who've never got to meet him or hear one of his panels and getting to hear him discuss about, stuff of, everything he's had, like Fred said, everything he's had his hands on throughout his career. So
we're really lucky as a community to have him, as a resource that's always available, man. He's we'll just be having stupid conversations on Facebook, and then Kirk will come in and drop a knowledge bomb on us, and just kind of like set us all straight. It's amazing. Like, the level of detail that he remembers stuff and his willingness to engage with us, as a community is just, I'm not that active in that many other toy collecting communities, so I can't say it's unprecedented. But damn, he was there from 82. Actually, he was there from 78, on G.I. Joe specifically through 86. And then he took a few years and started up their direct line, Hasbro Direct or whatever. And then he came back on the brand in like 1990 and saw it through to the end of A Real American Hero. So basically he was there pretty much the whole time, and he's got an intense amount of knowledge about it. So we're just all really lucky to have him, and that he still wants to, interface with us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
he was so cool about it at JoeCon, how he was like messaging me. He says, anytime. He says, I will definitely come on. So
yep.
You were going to say something, Fred. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, if it's crazy to like Carson was saying, is to be in a Facebook discussion and someone will be like, well, I think this is the answer. Is that right? And they tag him and he pops back on it. You would think it'd be, some people would be like, oh, look, the toy nerds are back. Let me type out a response. No, Kirk just gets it because I think, for him, like we've all said, it's, there's something about creating something and seeing that people appreciate it and seeing it's not about you, it's about the work. And it's about the work living on and being appreciated. And I think for Kirk, especially as, he is, now he's teaching and he's in that phase of his life, to see the fruits of his early career are still, still being enjoyed 30 years, 40 years later. Like, there are way worse things to have happen in life. It's pretty awesome. And you are right. We are very lucky to have him as a resource.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on tonight, hanging out with us and telling us. Again, let people know where they can find, your information at, just one more time so people know.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So start at 3djoes.com, the number 3, letter D, and then JOES.com. And social media, if you just want to talk about stuff, Facebook and Twitter links are in the top right corner. And yeah, Greg, how do you want them to get in touch with you? Yeah, well, like, I wasn't plugging products too heavily, but
no, plug it. Get that shit out there, buddy.
Certainly, follow me on Kickstarter. That's actually really helpful because if you go on Kickstarter and you follow certain creators, then as soon as they put something new up, you'll get a notification about it. So if you want to catch volume 5, my fear is that, I want to complete this book series. I want to get through 1994. And I know as we move into the early 90s, it's not going to be as grossly popular as the earlier stuff was. So I need every single person that's interested in this stuff to jump on the Kickstarter and help fund the printing of these things because, we've had consistently about 350 backers for the last several Kickstarters, and that's great. And as long as those people stay on board, we'll make it. But if any drop off, hopefully some new people will be discovering us and we'll be able to kind of, regain that we need about 300, at least 300 backers, I would say, to get the books printed. So follow us on Kickstarter for sure. Just search for Collecting the Art of G.I. Joe and you'll see it. We've had 4 of them for the books.
A quick question: when will the next one go up on Kickstarter?
People ask me that all the time.
Yeah, you know if there was a plan or not.
There's always a plan, but like I said, we all have day jobs, work really hard. I do video and animation, and Chad is also a video person. We're working through the 1990 to 1992 package art right now. It's all been scanned. It's in the Photoshop restoration mode right now, which is probably about 300 hours worth of work. And, so we're getting there. I don't want to commit to a date just yet, but
could we give a year? Like, would it be 2017 or 2018?
I want it to be out this year. I want people to have a book for Christmas. So I'll commit to that. I'll say for sure I want to have it out at least by Christmas.
We are giving everyone books for Christmas.
Woohoo! Giving books away.
So yeah, I would say I'm not afraid to commit to that. We'll shoot for Christmas this year. And then we'll shoot for at least Christmas next year to have volume 6 in the slipcase and be done, complete the mission 82 to 94.
Wait, that means I got to work for the holidays.
Yeah, you're working for Christmas. Man, he just talked himself into it.
Damn it.
Now, now you will be at the final JoeCon next year as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to pick it up, so we'll definitely pick it up
actually,
there.
You raise a really valid point. It would be very savvy of me to try to have the set done by JoeCon next year. So we'll work towards that as a goal, and hopefully we'll see if we get there.
Cool. That'd be
great.
What if you had a Kickstarter for 2 volumes?
Okay, so here's the thing. We didn't talk about this, but if I'm not going to be offering posters for the next Kickstarter, it would be possible to potentially fund both books in one Kickstarter. And I think that helps mitigate the risk of people falling off as we get into later years, right? So that might be a strategy. We'll see how it goes. That doubles the workload for the book stuff, but I think it would be smart from a fundraising perspective to try to knock them both out at the same time. And I think people would get excited about the stretch goal of the slipcase too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have.
Half as many packages to ship.
And half as many packages. There you go.
All right, well, great. Fred, tell people where they can find you at.
That hack site, joebattlelines.com. And, over on Facebook, JBL's got a Facebook page, which I've been trying to do, Monday through Friday, at least one topic a day, just to get people still talking about Joe. So
when are you doing your next video? I've been waiting for your next video.
Oh, my boss has been killing me lately. So
tell him to stop this shit.
I'm going to commit. Going back over lunches, I was doing Facebook Lives on some of the convention figures, and I am so far behind on reviews, it's ridiculous. So I will make a point of getting back to at least 2 of the convention figures as a Facebook Live this week, and I'll try to get back to doing about 2 a week from now on. It's just, it's a quick little thing, something to break up your day. Honestly, it's kind of fun to do. I still prefer written reviews, but the videos are just kind of, you get a little bit more of my snark.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy was the video. The at home, you go home. Hey, I came home and there was a package at my door.
Do you know how much trouble I get in for that now that my better half is going to be working from home? And I'm like, oh, she's going to see what I ordered. Damn it. So, but anyway, yeah, joebattlelines.com, Joe Battlelines on Facebook. We do have a Twitter account. And I'm going to throw some review pre-shots up on Instagram. I've been really cranking on those. So, yeah, just, wherever.
All right. And let me go ahead and give you all a quick reminder because someone just texted me, Rick, 2 weeks from today, July 29th, 10:30 Central Standard Time, we will have Kurt Pazigian on with us for a Saturday morning edition. And then that same day, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will have our Hangout edition where it'll be me, Fred, and I'm not for sure. I think you're only allowed to have so many people in one group at one time. So basically we'll probably do maybe, if we can get 6 more on with us, we'll do invites for 6, but you have to message me or Fred. You can send them here at on Facebook. A lot of y'all know me on Facebook as Mike Tennell or on Justin Our G.I. Joe podcast episode. And then, Fred, of course, on Joe Battlelines, and just hit us up and let us know that you're interested. Give us your email address, and we'll send an invite to you. That probably about 30 minutes till showtime, and then we'll go live, and we'll just basically just we'll talk a lot of crap, and we have to keep it PG-13 without the F-bomb. So I think we're okay that way. I think that's according to the YouTube rules. I can't drop.
You mean I can't say Firefly?
Oh, man. You can say that F word, but not the other F word.
And also, just if there's anybody out there that has a G.I. Joe related project, we had the Girls of the Finest. We had Joe Colton on last show. We've got the guys from 3D Joes this week. If you have a Joe product or a project or just anything that's in the works that just celebrates this brand that we all love and forces me to wear Tiger Force t-shirts so much, shoot us a message and let us know. We would be happy to have you on, because really the whole point of the show is just celebrating this toy line that has dominated our lives, to some extent or another, for the past 30 years. So, again,
quick. Next episodes does not count as 2 for your Tiger Force. It's still 1.
Yes. I will come up. I still have 3 more Tiger Force shirts
but I was saying
create.
you can't do the morning one as 1 and the evening one as 1.
Damn it!
Yeah, you ain't getting down that one, buddy.
Well, you know what? I still may do 2, and I just won't count it because I found out now that Vistaprint allows me to print one-off shirts. And doesn't, require my soul or that of my firstborn to pay for it. I'm okay with printing up a couple more. So,
I actually, how much did you pay for that shirt, by the way? Because I remember you showed me that. I think you sent me the slip or something. I can't remember what you said.
It was under $20 shipped.
Yeah,
and that was me sending them the image file, and having to pick, Dayglow orange, which is not one of the standard colors.
Right.
And they didn't require, the minimum order is 1.
Wow.
So
see, it's funny you should mention that because my friend that's here earlier, he's the guy going to San Diego to get my stuff for me with his friends. And he had me get a couple of shirts made for him, for my shirt company, for my con. And what he wanted, which was surprising, to be surprised, was Visionaries t-shirt. He's a huge Visionaries. And she did it on the royal blue, like I did with my Joe shirt and the other one. But the Visionary was in purple with the white around it. It was very sharp looking. And it's amazing with these shirts. And she only charged $15 a shirt to do it.
yeah, most places I was finding was like a 12 to 25 shirt minimum, and
We're getting ripped off.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't get any kickbacks from them, but I was shocked that Vistaprint came through, and I had it within, I think by the time I begrudgingly placed the order and washed the stank of Tiger Force off my hands, I think I had the shirt in 5 days, 5 business days. So that's pretty good. So, all right. Again, our thanks to the guys from 3D Joe's for coming on tonight. We've been fans. Well, some of us have been a fan. Mike is working on it, but if it was 3D Transformers, he'd be all over it.
Oh, shit, buddy, I'd be all over that.
But,
hey,
the most excited he's been all night.
Exactly.
Well, no, it was in your 3D book when we were at JoeCon, and I was looking through it. What was the one thing I asked him for? First thing I asked him, where's Tiger Force?
Yep.
That was the first thing I was like, where's Tiger Force in the book?
Volume 4.
There you go. Volume 4.
Mike, I'm just going to say that there are organizations that can help you with this problem of Tiger Force.
There's another one.
Admitting that you have a problem is the first step to finding a cure.
So quick segue. Did you see the origin of the Tiger Force, how it came from a Portuguese plane? There's a NATO tiger meet that they have in Europe every year where all the planes get together from different countries. They all bring their planes together and have a big air show. And so the old product manager had a picture of this Portuguese NATO plane from the Tiger meetup that had the exact paint job of the Tiger Rat. Exact, like to a T. The 3 little whisker black dots on the white nose with the yellow and exact paint
that's
job.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so that's where it came from.
That's cool.
Yep.
Also, I always forget to mention this. I know we've been very long-winded on our exit out tonight, but if you have a collection you want us to spotlight, you want me and Fred to talk about it, especially Tiger Force, be sure to send that to it's Autobot City Toys, Toyz 1978 at actually, forget that. I think that's what people aren't sending them. It's because they keep forgetting the 1978. It's Autobot City Toys, Toyz at yahoo.com. So send any pictures you want to for collection spotlight of G.I. Joe collection. It doesn't really got to be all G.I. Joe. We could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But mainly, if it's a lot of Tiger Force, be sure to send it. And if it's X-rated Tiger Force, be sure to send it to Joe Battle Lines.
What if it's mostly Transformers with a couple of Joes in the background?
Hey, you know what? At this point, I'll take any collection spotlight I can get because we've gotten 2 since December. So,
you're going to get Beanie Babies, dude. Just be careful.
Hey, dude. Hey, we'll talk about some Beanie
Let's
Babies.
keep it Hasbro. My Little Ponies.
Hey, there you go. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, sticking with us, and catch us in 2 weeks, 2 shows. See you then, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for having us. See ya.